what it's like scouting at a big club. Hey, Jameson, I need you to go out and scout and find me some wonderkids. I'm on it. I'll be lurking in the shadows. What it's like scouting at a not-so-big club. Hey, Jameson Jr., I need you to go find me some wonderkids. I don't know what that word means. I don't know where they are. I can't look too far else I get sick. I'm scared of planes. I don't think I'm gonna find anybody. And you still have to pay for me, is that okay? No. I hope Zealand makes a video about this soon. Well, the quarantine beard is coming in nicely. I like to think I'm keeping it contained. If you want to critique my beard growing, you can, of course, tell me in the comments. You can also come and hang out with me on Twitch. I stream 4 days a week, which I'm sure if you watch all of these videos, you have not heard. The link down with Twitter and Instagram down in the description. Down. System of a down. Today we are going over how to scout when you can't scout. When you're poor. This is a situation I've run into recently on the save that I am playing on Twitch, which is in Colombia. Now, I am very poor. I'm in this Colombian 2nd Division. We have not gotten in on the whole smuggling situation yet, so we're not making a lot of money. And I have a transfer budget of under $100,000. I have a wage budget that has no wiggle room. It's about $1 million a year, which, I mean, you can go much lower than that in Football Manager. The club, Llaneros, I can't even say it. The club, Llaneros, is at a low enough level that it reminded me of a simple truth, that there are teams in this game, the majority of the teams in this game, that going out and signing a player for a transfer fee just doesn't make any sense. And as a result, you have no robust scouting budget. You have the help of neither the youth package or the senior package at any significant level, and most often you can't afford one package at all. So how do you, in this situation with bad scouts and no money and no budget room, make moves to make your team better? You imagine. Like, well, I don't know. That's the video. Hope you enjoyed. Now, I've researched it and experientially gone through it now again in Colombia with what I like to call Trialist FC. But that's not the only. You know how I do this. I broke it into 4 sections. So it's time to go into the 4 sections. And that section number 1 is trials. Trials are something I actually didn't figure out what they were for a few years, and I didn't use them because I had no idea what they were. My trial revelation happened in FM18 when I started in the 2nd Flight of Iceland, which can be considered another level where you can only build your team through certain means. What a trial is an invitation to try out. When you are a small club, you will get things like this in your scouting center. This guy, he has no agent, has simply emailed me or TikToked me and offered his services. What I then do is go to the bottom corner and then I click Offer Trial. That's it. I have now sent this man's an invitation to come try out at my club. All he does is show up, and the only thing this costs me is workload on my coaching staff. And it obviously can disrupt your locker room a little bit if you have a ton of trialists around, and I have a ton of trialists around. And if this is a route that you want to go, and there's no reason this wouldn't be a route that you want to go, then you have to be wary of having too many players around your team, because obviously having 20, 30 dudes around the club, it's going to be burdensome. Your training's not going to be as effective. You get up to 60, 70, it can torpedo your entire team. What I do to make sure that this is observed is when the guy comes over and there's a little accept button behind my head, I click that accept button, I hit the space bar once, and then I go, Sometimes the stars are so low that you just know I'm going to click on him to make sure, and his finishing is good, his natural fitness is good. This guy, it might be worth keeping around. The problem is, I have like 13 strikers already, and each of them is going to be somewhat comparable to this guy. So you just right-click him, go to Contract, Terminate Trial, and then the next time you hit Continue, the guy is going to be off your team. so he doesn't burden you down and you got a nice sneak peek at him. Burden you down. I don't even know what that means. That's how I keep my trial list number at about 20 to 30, and I'm just taking a look at the best guys. Now, how long it takes for a trialist to tell you everything about them is 2 weeks. So what I will like to do, even though I just had that trial for 1 week, I haven't gone into my staff responsibilities and switched my preferred trial length to 2 weeks, is if you right-click on them and set the trial to 2 weeks, you will get every piece of information, all of their hidden attributes. It's like 100% scouting, and it's your coaching staff that's doing it. So after those 2 weeks, I'll either sign them or let them go. It's completely money-free scouting, and everybody that's a free agent you can offer a trial to. Now, not everyone who is a free agent will accept a trial offer. It's got to be within reason, but it's effective. Just remember, and I can't tell you this enough, be wary of having too many trialists. Just use the trials to figure out who those free agents are that are real difference makers, not just people that could be on your team and, ooh, that's enticing, they're a free agent, but will make a massive positive difference for your team. Identify those people, keep them around. Also, I'm going to go to the eyes to tell you this. Keep an eye on when you can register players and when you can't. There is no worse feeling than signing a great trialist only to realize he will not be able to play for you for 5 months. When can you register players? Then only do your trialing in the month or so before that and after. Why after? Just the month or so before, get your trialing machine going so you know who you want to sign right when it ticks on for registration. Right now, I'm weaning out of my trialing in Colombia because we're out of the transfer window and I can't register players. Even if James walks through that door, he's not, hi, James! Can't sign you. Sorry. And you want way too much money and you've sat out a World Cup match. What? Go away. Right, now we're moving on to the second section, which is staff knowledge. I line these up next to each other because your staff knowledge can really play into using trials to figure out how good players are, because your staff knowledge can expand beyond your scouting knowledge. And you're sitting there thinking, what is my scouting knowledge? That's this thing where you aren't That's this thing. It's scouting range. It's where your board lets you scout. I get this question all the time. Why can't I scout in Zimbabwe? And it's because your board doesn't think you have enough money to send a guy to Zimbabwe. That costs money. It does not, however, cost money to know about players. And your staff can be from different parts of the world that can expand your scouting range beyond what your scouting range is allowed to be. You can then use that to get trialists. Let me show you what I mean. First, for my scouting range. Now, you go down to scouting, and I've looked for an easier way to do this for way too long. But you try and create an assignment, and then when whatever regions it tells you can scout in, that's where you can scout. So I can scout the western half of South America. Apparently, Brazil is like too far away. But when you look at my club's scouting knowledge, we obviously have knowledge outside of Western South America. How did I do that? Because what this knowledge is just knowing who players are. They might know a little more information about certain players, but just knowing who players are to add them to your player search so that you can look them up and decide if you want to sign them based off of the attributes that you can see. And there can be a lot of free agents that are just drifting around like this. And it tells you where the information comes from. So I've got Benin, Senegal right here, and France, actually, and it's all from my general manager, Jimmy Ajovi Boko, the guy I brought in. He's got over 50% knowledge of those countries. So now I can go into my player search and look for guys that are free agents that might be from those countries that I would have not been able to find any other way. Or in cheap countries like that, you might actually be able to spend some money and sign a player, even though I have less than 100,000 to spend. You can get really cheap players in Senegal and Benin, guys that can help me. You have to be cognizant of foreign player rules, but signing a staff or reorganizing your staff so that you can get people that have knowledge of these other countries into your staff to try and go make a few signings can change your life. The trialists that come to you are more often than not going to have some relation with the country you're playing in. The people you find this way, you have the opportunity to bring from another universe into yours, which means they could just be light years better. Also, since I know I'm going to be asked this in the comments, you talk to your board and ask to expand scouting range when you feel like you have enough money and enough reputation that the board will let you. It's the same as youth recruitment or anything else. Right now, section number 3. Youth national teams. This is one, the first time that I heard it, I didn't really believe that it was going to have much of an impact. But for every senior national team tournament, where you'll probably only find players you can sign on very bad national teams, or maybe a really young, talented player breaks through in Vietnam and you happen to be looking at the East Asian Cup. For every one of those, there is a youth tournament going on. Much the same as adding coaching staff members that can provide you extra knowledge for a player search. This can also just collect players in front of you. It makes the other coach kind of your scout. You just sent out that cool dude in the shades from the beginning of the video, and he came back with the 23 best under 21 players in Belarus. And for most countries in the world, you're probably going to find 1 or 2 players at least that you would either have a shot at signing or aren't at a club at all. You can just go click on this globe and just back it out to each continent and look at all the continental competitions that are happening. Write down when they're happening and go check on the teams when the competition is going on to see if there's anyone in there that you would want to sign. Most of the time, you're not going to be able to sign the player, or they're not going to want to come to wherever corner of the world your team happens to be. But you certainly can connect enough and make enough signings in this situation for it to absolutely be worth it to just look at all these national teams you find interesting, offer trials to the free agents, and maybe look to sign 1 or 2 of the guys that are in the starting lineup that you might be able to bring in. I mean, depending on how low you are, anybody on almost any of these teams that have professional 18-year-olds, you're going to want to sign because they're doing something right. They're getting noticed by a national team setup. And if you're like, oh, I don't want to spend the time to figure out what competitions I can look at, don't worry. Here's how. When you're on this globe, you just click on World. When you click on World, you go to Competitions and Cups. When you go into Cups, you sort by nation because all of the international competitions will not have a nation. So things like the Nations Leagues and the Copa Libertadores, all the Champions Leagues will be in here too, but you will see all of the youth tournaments will be in this section. European U21, European U19, FIFA World Under 20, North America U20. It's all right here in a quick scroll. Check bad senior teams, check basically all youth teams, and you're going to find some guys that can really make your team a lot better for very cheap. Hopefully guys that don't quite know what they're worth yet. And while we're on that note, might I offer you number 4? Countries with stupid youth systems. Now, there are countries in this game that have youth systems that make absolutely no sense to people with European sensibilities. The biggest one is the United States. Every American player in the game that starts in the United States, you can sign for free before they turn 18. For free. They're in MLS Youth Academies. Now, MLS Youth Academies are not the same as every other youth academy. You have to decide to offer them a senior contract, or you can reach out and offer them a senior contract when they're younger, or you have to let them go to college. So, a lot of these players are just coming through. They're completely free. They're like not under contract. This means that the next Christian Pulisic could be popping up in the United States, and you could use a lot less than the next Christian Pulisic to make your bad, poor team a whole lot better. When I did a save in Korea, I really exploited this. I had 3 foreign players allotted. I went and signed 3 17-year-old Americans who are immediately the 3 best players on my team because you get the pick of the Americans. There are very few Americans that spawn outside of the MLS youth system. And my Colombian coach, Solano Escobar, is obviously Colombian, so I had to go back to the other save, Bate save, for this. But I should be able to scout all of North America because I started with American as just my nationality. Obviously. All right, so the way to search this is you find a country. Like America, I think that Australia works the same way, but I have not tested it. And you go to... Is it amateur? And depending on the position of the player, you have a pretty good amount of knowledge about how good the player is if you're already from the United States. If you're not, as a coach, from the United States, get a coach who is, and you'll have the same amount of knowledge. And if with this much information, you can figure out if a guy is going to change your team or not. And you can search with it. Just come in here, you pick your attributes, you say, I want somebody that has at least 12 determination. And all of a sudden, it's narrowed it down to everybody that has a range that puts it with at least 12 determination. Add as many attributes as you want, and you will literally file down this huge group of amateur players into the few that might change your life. It is amazing how corrupt that system is. It's amazing. It only has one drawback when you're doing it with the United States, and that is that the players can only join you when they turn 18. It's the reason when I was in Korea, I signed a bunch of 17-year-olds, then pop goes the weasel. They were on my team before the end of the transfer window. You can search with those parameters too, like dates of birth and that sort of stuff, to make sure that you're only signing players that will join you soon. But honestly, when you're with a bad club and you find someone who's talented and young, get that contract in as quickly as possible. They'll be in on their 18th birthday and you're ready to go. You just let your old players that are in on contracts you don't need fade out. You try mutual termination with players that have bad contracts you want to get rid of. You free up your capital, your salary with that, and then make your offers out to all these other people. The other caveat is semi-pro and amateur teams. You might not be able to sign some of these people, especially youth national team players that are already fully professional will typically not want to take a step back. So that option might not be one that you can travel. But obviously amateur players from the United States are still likely in most cases to want a semi-pro contract. Amateur's hard to talk anyone into, but then you just want to use your coach knowledge and you want to use your trials to find better amateur players. You got to lean more heavily on the ones that are less dependent on just finding players that don't know how good they are yet. Even though those are fun, it's like all of you guys. You guys have no idea what a great community you are until I tell you, and you are great. So I hope to see you on Twitch. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it helps you pull off a save like I'm trying to pull off in Colombia. Hopefully it's a proof of concept. Maybe by the time this video comes out, it's not. Who knows?
He was just hopelessly lost.
Oh! Whoa! What? What? He did not. He did not just do that.